But first, I must check my bread.
残酷な天使のように少年よ神話になれ
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Adcast, a podcast for the study of modern visual culture. Coming to you live, not really. It's your girl, SwanDrawn. And who am I joined by?
You were joined by your boy XXX underscore Sephiroth 42069 underscore XXX.
Oh, yeah. Remember to follow.
Let's
subscribe.
get this bread, gamers.
And also donate all the biddies that you have, because today we'll be talking about Yakuza Kiwami. Let's go!
Okay, that's not quite right. That's not quite right.
But you said we would.
One day. We'll do it one day, but not today.
That's all I've been doing.
Oh, well, that's unfortunate.
XXX Sephiroth 42069 XXX. That's all I've been doing. Don't take this from me.
I'm sorry. I didn't want it to have to be this way, but it is.
But no, for real, today AT stands for Affiliate Tenacity, because we'll be talking about Twitch.tv. Before we kick things off, we will be talking about what we've been up to, like Yakuza Kiwami. But first, you can go, Soup.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll go first. Well, prior to the recording of this episode, I almost burned my house down because I went to preheat the oven, and it turns out that someone had left some food scraps in there, and now my entire house is full of smoke and we're airing it out. But it's okay because the oven has been cleaned, it has been preheated to 450, and now my bread is in there for 30 minutes. So, yes, I have not made any bread since Thanksgiving, when I went home with a loaf of bread. I brought a loaf of bread home that I made with my hands. Oh. And yeah, my family liked it. I got to hang out over Thanksgiving with my cousins. Yeah, my cousins.
That sounds like you're not quite sure how they're related to you.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so here's the thing, right, is that they're my cousins, but I haven't spoken to them in years, to the point where I wasn't even really sure who they were until someone told me that we were related. I was like, oh, we're related.
I have relatives like that. I know what you mean.
I think everyone does. I think everyone has relatives that just once in a while you catch up on, and you're just like, I kind of forgot that we were related, that we were part of the same familial unit. If I met you
out on the street, I would not have known.
If I met you out on the street, I would not have known that we were related, and we might have, gotten into a fist fight, and then Thanksgiving would have been really awkward.
Like your mom and my mom would have showed up, and then they would have been like, "Oh, I know you."
And then they would fight, and but yeah. So I've been making bread, but not really, because today was the first time in about a week or so that I've done it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Thanksgiving was last weekend, right? Yeah. Oh, Jesus Christ. That's exhausting. It feels like it's been like a month.
I mean...
But yes. I mean, yeah, it such is the nature of December.
Yeah.
Because we're finally in December. It feels like this year has gone on for maybe 10 years.
It's been a long year.
I'm shocked that we're here almost at the end of it, and that the world has not exploded yet. Fingers crossed, knock on wood. If I had wood to knock on. Everything in my house is kind of made of like metal and plastic.
Oh.
But yeah, unfortunately, I had a casualty. I lost my sourdough starter, Steven.
I saw that.
Yeah, so the way that you make a sourdough starter is you just kind of mix flour and water, and then you let it hang out there, and then you keep feeding it flour and water every day until it smells good and like sourdough and all nice and lactic and fermented. Now, the problem is I had to go home for the weekend, so I decided to put it in the fridge, wrapped up and like airtight seal, and it didn't survive, basically. It developed kind of an off smell that was weird and pasty and almost like a little spicy, which is strange. I'm not really sure. But, this can happen with sourdough starters. You're just supposed to feed it until it comes back to life because you're letting the good bacteria kill all the bad bacteria by feeding it flour and water. Now, the unfortunate part is Steven never recovered, basically. I spent like a week feeding this sucker, and eventually he grew mold, and I had to throw him out.
You basically... I think you traumatized him from sticking him in the fridge. He thought you abandoned him.
He did not survive the deep freeze. It was very sad. I maybe should have just put him straight up in the freezer.
Yeah, I think the freezer probably would have been better.
I thought it would be fine. I was only going to be away for a couple days, and I fed him one last time. But no.
I mean,
he's
clearly
dead.
he was still conscious during all that and was able to figure out that you left him.
All right, that's horrifying.
Alone.
But sure.
Yeah,
but sure.
That's why he turned out horrifying.
I suppose so. Well, anyway, that sucks because that was like 2 or 3 weeks worth of work down the drain. So that's unfortunate, but you know what? It is just like that sometimes. So I've started a new foray into the bread wilds with the Steven 2 experiment. I've bought a new jar. I bought a new stir to stir the flour in and water. I bought flour so that we can get all the nice natural yeasts from rye flour, which is supposedly, containing quite a lot of those. And I'm going to feed it with a mixture of rye flour and bread flour. And hopefully the bread flour doesn't kill my sourdough starter.
All your children are going awry.
Oh, boo. That was good, though. That's a good pun. I wasn't sure if you had even caught it, but yeah. Aside from that, I mean, I updated all my peripherals where I got a new keyboard, I got a new mouse, and I more sort of pressingly, I bought an audio interface and a new microphone. If you're wondering how this happened, well, this is like the last Christmas I think my dad will ever do for me, and he just gave me a bundle of money and was like, you can buy whatever you want with this.
Yo.
And I thought, I'm going to invest in my podcast. So if I sound a little different, it's because I'm on a different audio interface with a different microphone, and hopefully this is an upgrade and not like a downgrade, because I mean, my microphone costs 25 times the microphone that I had before, but mind you, my previous microphone was also an $11 microphone, so it's not hard to be more expensive than an $11 microphone. I'm gonna be honest. I
mean, I think congratulations are in order for your brand new microphone.
Yup. I mean, hopefully this is my present to all of you, where I sound better and you don't have to suffer.
I thought you already sounded fine to me, but, my ears aren't very picky.
Yeah, they gradually get more picky the more audio stuff you start doing. It's this terrible rabbit hole where you're like, oh, I'm not going to need like anything really fancy. And then you wake up one morning and you're clutching like a $400 audio interface and a $600 microphone. And you're just like, where did all my money go? What is this? Where am I?
I have no shoes, I have no clothes, but I do have this audio interface.
And I will say, in regards to my other peripherals, I bought a Razer mouse, which I kind of swore that I would never buy a Razer mouse ever again, because I think their software, Razer Synapse, is kind of obnoxious. But the reason I got this one was because, one, it was on sale, and, I'm a terrible sucker for the consumerist culture we live in. It's terrible. And also, it supposedly has onboard memory, so I don't even have to download Razer Synapse if I want to use it on another computer. And that sounds rather appealing. I'm not going to lie. So I bought it.
What is so good about the mouse that you're like, I have to get a Razer one?
Here's the thing about Razer mice, is that Razer mice actually are not bad, generally speaking. Okay. I think they're well designed. They don't look as obnoxious as many other gaming mice do.
Okay.
I'm looking at you, Logitech. Some of those look hideous. And honestly, looking at it, their like kind of Razer Gamer logo is really aggressive, but I have it lit up in not RGB, but just like white LED, except it's not true white LED, so it's a little bit bluish, but that's aside from the point. And it actually looks not too bad, kind of low key. It's ambidextrous, so it's like it's not weirdly shaped really, it's just kind of pointy.
Okay.
And it works pretty fine. There's 2 buttons on both sides of the mouse, like the left and the right side, which is like as many buttons as I really need. I don't need any more. I would prefer 3 buttons on one side and then nothing really on the other side, but that's not how this mouse works. But I don't really care anymore. I swapped it out because my old mouse was, it was okay, it was good, but it was not as good as it could have been, and it was aging a little bit, and some of the paint was coming off, and one of the buttons had long since like lost its springiness. So yeah. Anyway, so I bought that. And I also replaced my keyboard. And this is like the worst, because this is the most like terrible self-indulgent thing I actually did. Because here's the thing is my keyboard was perfectly fine, right? My mouse was kind of in tatters because I had been using it every day for like 3 years, and my keyboard, and of course like the audio stuff, that's more of an investment for the podcast than anything else. But the keyboard is I just wanted a new keyboard. And this is gonna sound funny, but as I've been getting, I don't want to say older, because I'm on the brink of 22, like I'm about to turn 22, and that's not old at all. That's like really young. I haven't even hit the point where my body has decided to stop growing and then start dying yet. So,
oh God,
right? Like, but I realized that as I've been getting older, all this stuff that I kind of bought years ago that is very aggressively gamer marketed, let's say, right? It kind of turns me off. I'm not gonna lie. Like I don't get me wrong, I like the RGB keyboard. I think it's nice. I liked my keys, and it typed well. It's just that I looked at it and I could see myself at 16 being like, this is the coolest thing ever, and I died a little inside.
You don't want to return back to the days when you were 16, because you've developed as a human since then.
Yeah, I really have. So I bought a sensible keyboard. Okay. I bought a semi-sensible... Okay, I bought an indulgent semi-sensible keyboard. It is... Okay, it's a 10 keyless keyboard, first of all, so it's not as massive as my 10 key keyboard. It means it doesn't have the number pad on it, but I have a separate number pad now, so it doesn't matter. And it has Cherry MX brown switches, so they're a little bit quieter than the really clicky ones, but they still kind of feel nice to tap on. And I really like to type on it. But the most important things to me about this keyboard are, one, it doesn't have any logos on it, right? It specifically, as one of its marketed points, it does not have a single logo on it. Second of all, it's only backlit in white, but it uses actual white LEDs, so the white actually looks good. It doesn't have any RGB colors. It just is white, and that's what I want, right? I want it to just be kind of low-key.
Low-key keyboard.
Low-key keyboard. And I mean, low-key is a relative term, of course, because it's still a backlit keyboard. But the font on it is Helvetica. It is a normal, sensible, adult would write a paper font. And it's not like a weird, aggressive, bold gamer font. It doesn't look like it came out of the space age in the 90s. Like, it doesn't look like it came out of Alien. And it's just kind of nice, right? Where it looks like a keyboard. Like, this is, if somebody said it looks like a backlit keyboard, this is what you would imagine. If you're wondering, the equipment that I have now is the Razer Lancehead Tournament Edition. The Tournament Edition just means it has a wire instead of being wireless. Not that the wireless is bad. I think wireless mice have gotten a lot better. It's just that the wired one is, $50 less. So
sure.
Yeah. My keyboard is a Code 87. So this is made by WASD, which is a website / company that makes customized mechanical keyboards, except this one's special because it's some kind of weird collaboration piece. I don't really get it, but this is the only one that's backlit, so I got it. And my interface is a Tascam 2x2, and the microphone is a Shure Beta 87A. So there we go. That's all the stuff that I bought. Don't even start thinking about how much money that costs, because it's going to hurt you like it hurt me. Anyway, one last thing, which is that I have been watching Ruby.
Yeah.
It's good. I'm not going to lie. It's a lot better. They fixed a lot of things, and they had a fight scene in one of the latest episodes. They had an honest to God fight scene that I looked at with my own human eyeballs, and I did not want to puke. It was actually really good. They used the environment well. They used the fighting styles of the characters in a way that made sense. It was rhythmically balanced. And the only real problem I have with it is that, and these are complete nitpicks, right? Like on a macro level, this fight scene was great. Where some of the effects are a little bit not as good because they're like localized flashes. They're really small, so it feels like the impact isn't following through everywhere. It's just kind of in one area, which is a minor nitpick. That's like honestly nothing. And the other one is a little bit larger, is that I still don't like some of the camera angles they take. They take a lot of these like really, I guess you could call them creative camera angles, but they're really jarring. And if you actually watch that video that I posted in the link dump last week or 2 weeks ago about Every Frame a Painting, that one about the Jackie Chan movies, that problem still exists where they still have some trouble framing the whole scene in a way that your brain will logically accept. Because if you watch the Red trailer, there's not a cut in that trailer that takes you out of the moment, whereas there are a couple that kind of for a split second do in this latest one in episode, I think, 5. But overall, it's like such an improvement on every level, and it's just continued to look better that I'm honestly really impressed with the way it's going, especially because I was so angry after Volume 5. So angry.
Yeah. Well, that's really, really good to hear. It sounds like at this point, the only issue is like maybe like some directorial kind of things, like, because I feel like the whole camera positioning, composition, whatever, that has a lot to do with the way that the director envisions the scene, and then they tell the animators like compose it this way, compose it that way. So maybe if they were able to like get more experience in terms of like filmography and how to compose scenes in a visual way, then it sounds like they're nailing it, and that's great.
Yeah,
I'm really happy to hear that. I
would agree. I mean, honestly, I don't even mind that much about these like kind of jarring camera angles sometimes, because it's I mean, it's not easy, right?
No, it's definitely
it's very difficult, especially in animation. So
yeah,
I mean, kudos to the Ruby team.
Absolutely kudos. Like, I've only watched like I think 1 or 2 episodes of the new season, and so far it's already felt like better paced, better, like, I don't know, it just feels a lot better. So it's convincing me to, because I was, after season 5, I was like, man, I don't know if I should give this series another chance until like I hear any kind of verdict that I can trust about season 6. And I mean, if you're saying that it's awesome and from what I've seen is already good, then I think it's worth a try.
Yeah, absolutely. It's making me enjoy Ruby again, which I so sorely missed. Anyway,
that's good.
That's everything that I've been up to. Surprisingly, not a lot, but I've managed to stretch it out into what sounds like a lot. So it's just a little trick of the storytelling narrative language thing.
Don't inflate yourself.
I almost burned my house down, so I can't really say anything.
Let's talk about your bread ventures.
let's deflect and ask what you're up to, what you have been up to, rather.
I might as well have like burned down my house with bread in terms of
Jeez, okay.
quality of the things I've been doing. I made a mistake, Soup.
Okay, all right.
Over the holiday when I was visiting my family, and I was like, I would get up, and I'm like, man, I don't really want to get up, yet. I turned on my phone, and then I downloaded. I don't know why this occurred to me, but I downloaded Star Ocean Anamnesis.
Oh no, Renu, no!
And I think it's because I really wanted to play Star Ocean, but then that would have involved me digging out my PS2 somewhere in my parents' house, and then trying to find the game, and then trying to find the memory card, which I know is not sitting with either of those things. So, anyway. It's not as awful as I was expecting, because I did expect to basically play for like half an hour and then delete it off my phone and be like, well, at least I know what it's about.
Okay.
It takes a lot of cues from Grand Blue, which I think is, interesting, but also like, of course they would, because Grand Blue is really popular.
I was gonna say, I think that's every mobile game now.
Yeah, exactly. It's not, you can't play it on the browser like Grand Blue, obviously. But what I love about it is that it has the Star Ocean combat in there. So it has real-time combat with 3D models. And they're doing all the Star Ocean moves. Like they've, of course, narrowed down in terms of like, you can basically use only 3 of their abilities, as opposed to like the whole repertoire that they usually have in the games. And they've taken, a couple of characters from each game in the series. There's like 5 games. And basically put in the protagonists and a couple of the special popular characters from each game and put them in so far. Aside from like really, really bad, like unreasonably bad loading times, like I would understand the loading times for going into battle, because like I said, it's 3D modeled, it's real-time combat kind of thing. There's like bad loading times between menus, like if you're going from your character menu to your item menu. Yeah, it's bad. And I don't know if it's because of my phone. Like maybe my phone it doesn't have a good enough processor to like handle the app, but I downgraded the resolution of, because they have it in the settings, like you can put it on a low setting to save battery life or whatever, but it still hasn't really helped all that much in terms of like going from menu to menu. I'll wait like, this is such a minor gripe, but it's like I'll be waiting like at least like, 5 seconons per menu. I mean, that's a long time to wait when you're just trying to flip from menu to menu in an app. And that's like, it's nitpicky, but it's because it's a quality of life thing that I haven't run into with other apps like, Fire Emblem, Puzzle and Dragons, those kinds of things. Like the menus in there are seamless for me.
See, this is kind of what's funny, right? Is people don't really think about this, but that's actually like one of the most important things is how accessible everything is. I'm gonna be honest, I love Grand Blue Fantasy, but Grand Blue Fantasy has the world's worst UI. There are so many menus, there are so many buttons, there are so many menus that go to other menus, and none of it is streamlined at all. I think Fire Emblem Heroes has great UI. Yes, it does, and they're constantly improving it. Right, and despite not being an amazing game, or at the very least, despite just, I hit the cap of that game, and then I was like, I don't really feel like doing anymore. Right. Whereas with Grand Blue, I'm still just climbing out of the endless depths of the grind. Yeah. It's the way that the game plays outside of the game is just as important as the game itself, especially if that's what you're going to be doing most of the time, because let's be honest, that's what mobile games are. You do play the game a lot, but half of the time it's really just menu and inventory management. Right, exactly. And because it's like a Grand Blue-esque game, there's a lot of time that you're spending like looking at your weapons, looking at your character abilities, like that kind of thing. And I shouldn't be waiting for so long just to look at a character's profile and figuring out what their ability is, I don't know. I'm still playing it, which is, I guess, saying something. A week later, I'm still playing it. It has a nice, auto battle feature, so I can just
click on the battle, let it play out through all the stages of battle that it's going through, and in the meantime, like do something else, so I can grind pretty easily.
I like how you're basically telling me that this is a better Star Ocean game than the last few.
As someone who really, really, really liked the older Star Ocean games, I mean, yeah, I'm spending more time playing this mobile Star Ocean game than I have spent playing either Star Ocean 4 or 5, which are the newest ones.
This is one of those things that, like, I didn't even know about until you and apparently all of my other friends started complaining about. I feel like everyone in our, like, group of friends has complaints about Star Ocean.
Which is interesting. I don't know. So yeah, they, at the very least, you know what? I think one of my main motivations for opening this game, aside from like Star Ocean nostalgia, is the fact that I get to see my old Star Ocean characters who were like 2D, tiny pixel sprites in 3D models and with new voice actors and stuff. And so it makes me happy to see them, at least. The only problem... Yeah?
They've got you with the Fire Emblem Heroes model.
No, for real. And the only problem though is that I haven't checked in terms of if they've kept the same Japanese voice actors, but all of the English voice actors are different from what I have seen so far. I haven't looked at all of the characters yet, but yeah, it's a little jarring, and I listen to it and I'm like, ooh.
See, here's the thing though, is I almost feel that's better. You that's the kind of thing you want to keep in your memories and not in your present day, because it's never as good as. And this is funny because I opened up Twitch today and started watching some of the Pokemon that they're marathoning, and I legit had that moment where I was like, why do they sound like that? Why do they sound like that?
Yeah. I guess it just kind of goes to show, like, there's a limit to what you can do in terms of bringing something old into the new, like the old thing is going to have its timeless place in wherever it came out, and if it has a special place for you in that time period, then there's only so much they can do to spruce it up now. Anything else? I've been listening to it with the Japanese voice acting because that's far enough removed that I can be like, okay, this is fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that might be the optimal way to do it.
Yeah.
All right, anything else?
Yeah, basically that and Yakuza. That's it for me.
Okay. I mean, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of weird because the other thing that you do, we're just gonna talk about, right?
Yes, exactly.
So why don't we do that?
Sure.
Like this is I'm gonna say this is kind of a, like, as a preface to the actual meat of the episode. This is a weird episode. I mean, it's weird and it's not weird because it's more in line with what modern visual culture represents generally. Like, we're not going to be looking at one piece of media and then breaking it down and analyzing it and talking about it. We're really going to be talking about something kind of more general and everything that entails. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about Twitch. Twitch.tv is a platform for streaming all manner of content. It was derived from Justin.tv, which was the origin of Twitch, I think. Twitch being the more games-focused brand. So originally, Twitch existed to basically stream esports and esports tournaments.
Oh.
And then it became more general as people started using it to stream video games and do Let's Play-esque stuff, which is actually very interesting. And I actually kind of want to get into that at some point. The rise and I'm gonna let me just tell you a secret: the rise and fall of Let's Plays. But yeah, Twitch has become much more general purpose in recent years, adding categories like creative and IRL and just talking. And now creative and IRL have grown to such enormous degree that they've replaced those categories with more specific ones, such as tabletop RPG, food and drink, art, etc. Modern visual culture, perhaps?
Ooh.
Which is mostly a joke because Twitch is modern visual culture. And that's why we're talking about it, because it's modern, it's visual, and it's culture.
Yeah, it's
Weird.
a huge culture.
You are an affiliate with Twitch. part of their affiliate program. So you have a subscriber button, but you're not a full partner.
No. Being a full partner as an artist is actually a huge hurdle. I have a pretty good community going on right now, and I'm lucky enough to be associated and be friends with quite a few other creative streamers. And even then, like within our group, there's maybe a handful of people who are partnered. And it's I forget the exact statistics. You have to have at least 70 live viewers average per stream, and you have to have a certain number of time that you stream every month, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So aside for the affiliates, it's a little easier. There's a follower mark that you have to hit. I can't remember if there's like an average viewer rating that you need, but yeah, as a creative and I guess now art streamer, it's been really interesting seeing how much it's grown. Like when I first started streaming on Twitch, it was just to play the Yakuza games, so that my friends could watch. And then it wasn't until I started streaming my art that like my channel really started growing. So it just goes to show how saturated the gaming market is on Twitch, and how much the creative, and I guess now art, or food and drink, whatever, like all those channels are coming up now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool.
I mean, it is interesting because personally I know a lot of streamers, like a lot of partnered streamers. I'm friends with them, and I've kind of been around in the Twitch space for a while. I mean, a couple years, definitely not as long as some other people, but definitely I would say before it really took off and became a part of mainstream popular culture.
Right.
And this is interesting, where Twitch has kind of grown from a very small, very niche tech startup to being one of the largest, entertainment sectors in the world.
Right.
It's gotten to the point where Twitch no longer is just a place where you go to watch people play video games, even though, that's the primary function still, ostensibly. But with Twitch doing things like, Twitch Presents, where they marathon shows, and things like streaming live events like the Democratic or Republican National Convention, that's a big deal. And people are going to start turning to Twitch in favor of cable. Like, these are the cord cutters that people are talking about.
Right. Because there's like an increasing amount of people who, they prefer online interaction versus, in-person interaction, or maybe that's just how they feel more comfortable in, getting to know people. And so when you have these viewers, they don't necessarily want to pay for cable or sit around on TV. They're already on their computer doing other stuff. It makes more sense for them to turn on something like YouTube or Twitch and have that playing in the background, or interacting with people in the chat, that you can talk about, these things that you're all mutually watching at the same time. And so you can all react together and all that.
Yeah. And this is to the point where I think that Twitch is a very interesting case, especially in recent years, where Twitch is really overtaking YouTube in terms of being a cultural presence. And I think a large part of the reason is because streaming is, by its nature, different than a YouTube video.
Yeah.
Twitch offers, by its very nature, an amount of interactivity that YouTube does not. And
exactly.
And YouTube now is trying to get in on streaming,
right?
Even though everything about YouTube has kind of gone down the drain recently, and everything is kind of the worst. But really, like, Twitch was just in the right place at the right time, and it really blew up.
Yeah, it did.
I think it's maybe understated how important that level of expectation of interaction is to Twitch. I think that's a large part of the reason that a lot of these people are coming to Twitch to watch things, because it's not just it's not just I'm watching a static video that exists in the abstract. I'm watching someone do something live that I can comment upon, and they'll see my comment and they might react to it, right? There is, I mean, it's that joke. It's that Twitch joke of streamer, why don't you interact with chat? Ugh.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've gotten some of those, despite not even having that big of like a viewership. It's just like, you didn't see the thing that I commented on, and I'm like, I'm sorry. The chat was moving really fast at that time. Like, I'm not trying to ignore you. I promise.
Yeah, I mean, it's very, very interesting because I feel like a lot of the way that a Twitch stream is set up is supposed to be kind of how do I say this, like unidirectional, right? Like the attention is supposed to go inward toward the streamer, and the streamer will occasionally output some, and it sets up this very interesting situation where even if you're talking with people in a Twitch chat, it can kind of feel like that's not really the point, right? Where really it's everyone is here to watch the streamer and try to interact with the streamer, and so it's kind of this weird thing where you're shouting at the TV together, right?
Sure, yeah, and I don't. It's interesting though. Like I mean there are communities that have built around the streamer to the point where the communities themselves, like they do become friends with each other, and that's always nice to see too.
I will say this, the size of a Twitch streamer's audience has a huge bearing on the kind of, and it's not the only thing, right? But it has a huge bearing on the kinds of relationships that people will have to each other in a Twitch stream. Because, you know, like I said, I'm friends with a lot of streamers, and interestingly, it's like they share a lot of viewers with each other, and those people are members of a community. And it's kind of, and I will say this is kind of interesting, where having been to a couple Twitch cons, I've been to every Twitch con at least nominally, and the Twitch that I interact with is so different from the Twitch that other people interact with. Because the people that I talk to like speak to each other like people, and we're a community, even though we don't have like borders, I guess, quote unquote.
Sure. Where
people will move from one community to the other, and they're really all kind of part of a bigger community, this like bigger subset of Twitch that's like, you know, reasonable and gay. And I say that somewhat jokingly, but there is a higher population of queer people in these communities, and that's part of the reason that people band together under these streamers. Is because they see something in them that they want represented, right? You know, it's this idea of like putting your money where your mouth is, or putting support behind things that you think are valuable. And it's not a flawless system, but you know, you can't deny the communities that have been built as a result, and how they actually feel like communities. I mean, this is obviously something that is quite complex. It's something that I don't think a lot of people have put a lot of time and money into looking at, right? Like as a sociological thing. But it is increasingly as we, you know, enter an internet age, we begin to see the ways in which people who have been deprived of any means to create a community do so, or attempt to do so, or attempt and fail to do so. Because I would honestly say that that's how a lot of Twitch feels to me, is it is very impersonal.
Yeah, I can see how you say that, yeah.
Part of it is due to the size of a streamer, right? Like, by necessity, the less people are in a stream but are engaged, the more the streamer will be able to actually engage with those people and talk to them. Right? That's just, if you have 90,000 viewers, that's impossible. Even if you average 1,000 viewers, that's quite difficult.
That's why I'm quite happy with the relative size that a lot of creative streams are, in terms of like their viewership and the number of people actually engaging in chat, is because it feels like it's right at that sweet spot where, you know, the partners can make enough money to, you know, support themselves, and the affiliates have a chance to, you know, they're growing and you know, slowly but steadily, but also like we're at a viewership where we can have really deep and engaging conversations with our chat if we so choose, and we can, you know, hopefully be able to respond to everyone, you know, personally if they have questions or what have you. And like the thought of having a much bigger stream kind of really terrifies me because I know I'm already like trying to adjust as much as I can to, you know, the people that are mainstream now, let alone like if it were to be twice that much or 3 times that much, you know. Like I don't know, like I feel like that's such a huge thing is trying to adjust to sheer numbers, you know.
Yeah,
and
I think
be
so.
able to keep up that connection. Yeah, like how do you maintain a great conversation or intimate connection with your audience when you have that many people, you know, talking at you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and more to the point, right? It's that all of those people expect to be heard.
Yeah.
Right? It's kind of funny, and this is something that this is something that Adam says, friend of the show, Adam Coble, says a lot, which is that Twitch has a lot in common with cam girling. Which, I mean, it sounds kind of funny at first, like, you know, when you first hear it, but it's actually very true. And of course, more true if you value sex work as an actual valuable service instead of, you know, the way that we treat it in Western culture, which is kind of as a taboo. I mean, not even Western culture in general, just like America. It's just like sex bad. Only sex if you marry. Only marry if you believe in Jesus. Yeah, but it does, and it feeds into this idea of people being entitled to attention, which is, I think, fascinating and really representative of the kind of flavor of the turn of the century. I think that a lot of people are feeling very alienated, and these people find community, or what they believe is community, in things like Twitch, where you have some level of belief in a community and in interaction with a person, even if they don't really know anything about you, right? It's by all means, it could just be that they have no idea you exist or whatever. And what's really interesting about this is the way that community, right? This idea of building a community can change over time. Right? Like if your stream grows bigger, if it explodes all of a sudden, then, you know, you're gonna know a couple people in the chat, but most of those people will be nobodies. I mean, that's a bad way to put it. They're gonna be anonymous, right? They're not gonna be people that you know. And once you get those people in your chat and watching your stream, you'll hit a critical mass where people will just come in because other people are watching. And this is how a lot of Twitch actually functions, where people just watch what people are already watching, right? And it makes sense that is the case. There's an amount of legitimacy that comes with having that many people watching your stream, that many eyes on you, and it's very very reflective of the kind of culture that we live in, I think.
Right. Yeah. No, that's a really interesting point. And I think a lot of the responsibility in terms of like forming your community and how it responds to you and who stays has a lot of, you know, either fortunately or unfortunately, a lot of that falls on the streamer, right? Like you. Oh yeah, absolutely. Whatever. Exactly. Like whatever you enforce or recognize as part of your stream, and whatever it is that you choose to focus on is, you know, that's you're crafting it, right? And of course, a lot of that is going to be shared by, you know, whoever decides to stay on your stream, right? Like your community is also going to form with or without you, but you do as a streamer, like if you want to grow a good community, then you have to, you know, you have to get your hands in.
Yeah, you have to feed your community bread and flour every day so that eventually all of the bad bacteria will be killed by the good bacteria.
Don't grow mold.
Don't grow
put it
mold
in,
in your Twitch
fridge
chat.
and grow mold. Yeah.
I totally agree. It is very much up to the streamer what kind of community that they choose to build. Because while I stand by my statement where eventually your stream will just get so big you can't possibly interact with everyone, I think that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
I also agree that if the streamer makes a real effort to create a community, then they can.
Yeah.
Right? It's not impossible for a large community or a Twitch streamer with a large audience to feel like a community. Yes. Okay. I almost got lost in double negatives. I'm sorry.
No, yeah, for sure. Like you, by basically encouraging certain kinds of, behaviors or certain kinds of personalities in your chat, like you'll end up attracting people who are either like-minded in terms of like the values that you hold that you want to show or bring forth in your community, or like people who for example, like every streamer will come across like a troll or two, or 1,000 in your time streaming. And hopefully by that point, if you've raised a good community, like your community will handle it for you, right? Before you even realize what's happened, they're already on it and they've, driven out the problem that is like bringing your chat down or being a distraction, right? And that has a lot to do with, the people that you, like the people that you attract with your values, right? Like they're not going to stick around if they think that you're just another scumbag or that you're just after like their money. Mm-hmm. People aren't. Unfortunately, there are a lot of like sheeple-minded people out there, but I would say like they're not as in big of a number as the people who are more savvy on the internet who would be in Twitch, right? Like
yeah, and this is what I'll say about that, right? Is that. It's true that community is built by the streamer and the values and how they express those values, and that will be adopted and reinforced by the community. And so you'll get people that are either like-minded or willing to listen. I think that's it's not to be underestimated how many people come in and they don't quite fit with the community at first, but they learn because your community is like self-replicating these ideas. This is a thing that is very present in the community that I moderate for, right? I moderate for Adam's community, and it's very like the actual Discord server community is like set up in a really weird way where the mods aren't like police mods; they're just kind of like people point, and it's like that's how you should be acting, like a grown-up human being. And of course, you do moderator stuff, like you ban and you kick, but never without reason, and we always give a message. And of course I'm not going to get like too much more into that because that's not stuff that I'm at liberty to divest, but it is, I think, interesting that the community will replicate, right? It'll self-replicate the ideas that you impose upon it, because the people who don't agree with you are just not going to stay around. And
exactly,
that's for better or for worse, right? There are a lot of communities like the ones that I'm in where people are generally pretty open-minded, let's say. Sure. But an enormous part of Twitch is people who are, for lack of a better word, they kind of feed into like the stereotype of gamer culture, right? They're kind of like knuckleheads, right? No,
yeah, and you can see it from a mile away. The people, the streamers who actively encourage those kinds of people to stay and basically build their entire streamer community around people who will kind of follow them blindly, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they're basically in it to just meme at you or to throw money at you, and rather than having any kind of like conversation, it's just to feed into this, I don't know, like this machine, And it's kind of like, I don't know.
Twitch,
it's a little uncomfortable.
It is interesting because Twitch as a platform is built upon insincerity. And this is from every level, even though what they say is they kind of want to foster these genuine communities. And they do exist, right? I'm not going to say that they don't, because there's so many streamers and so many people watching Twitch that it would frankly be kind of improbable if none of them managed to form communities that actually functioned. But to the point, it's like, it is like, here's the thing. Think about what really represents Twitch, right? If you look at the emotes, the Twitch emotes, the one that represents Twitch, the one that Twitch loves to replicate over and over again, is Kappa. And Kappa is an emote that by its very nature is about insincerity. You know, it's about like saying something kind of shitty, and then you put a Kappa at the end of it so that you're allowed to say it because people assume that you're joking. But people do this over and over again to the point where they're going to do that. And eventually that insincerity is, I mean, you have to question, is it actually sincere? Are you actually saying shitty things using the, oh, it's just a joke, bro, as a cover? And, you know, on top of that too, it's a problem because the opposite also gets punished. I think that there are a lot of really sincere moments that can happen on Twitch that Twitch at large doesn't really care about, right? If somebody is just like, you know, I'm streaming because I want to like hang out with y'all, and you know, my puppy died or whatever, some people will look at that and they'll just be like, how dare you have feelings? Ugh. Right? It's this very odd line, because there are people that are in Twitch to watch entertainment, and there are people that are on Twitch to connect with people on a human level, which is a somewhat, I think, misaligned idea. And then, you know, there are people who are on there to just like be on there. I don't know. It's very, very odd to me the way that it works. Because people will fight each other over pretty much anything. And this is one of those things, right? Where it is not cool on twitch.tv to be a vulnerable person. That is not a cool thing to be, because people go to Twitch with the expectation, this kind of weird paradoxical expectation, that they expect you to be somebody who is willing to be your friend, right? They want to be your friend. That's like one. But two is also, they kind of want you to be a celebrity too, where you're not allowed to be a bad person, or rather, you're not allowed to be a vulnerable and honest person. I think that there are people who I know there are people on Twitch who watch the most like toxic, terrible, like racist, sexist streamers on the planet. They say the worst things ever because either A, it aligns with their belief system, and I mean, fuck those people, honestly, but whatever, that's just the nature of the internet, that those people have found a home and can collect with each other and pool like some kind of dark cesspit. And then the other one is that, you know, people watch these because they're just like, oh, it's so funny that he's so terrible. And I get it, right? You know, not everything that you consume has to be a reflection of you as a person, but I mean, the question arises whether or not you're actually supporting this person on some deeper level, right? It's like this idea of, you're saying Kappa, but do you really not mean all that racist stuff that you just said? Because it kind of feels like you're like this is wish fulfillment, right? You're doing it because you want to, and then you can just cop out of it by saying it was a joke.
I guess I just tend to avoid those parts of Twitch, which unfortunately are rather big parts of Twitch. Is that it sucks that a large part of Twitch runs off of those, you know, those areas of the community that just either are super insincere and they don't want to see, they basically want to see an entertainer versus a person. But then there's the other side of Twitch, which I feel like is potentially a lot smaller and a lot less revenue building, which is, I'm tired of these fake personalities, these guys that just meme at me all day. I just want to have a conversation with someone. And like, I don't know,
Yeah.
it like being that entertainer personality while also being able to actually have a genuine bond with your community is like, it's asking for the world, but it's not an impossible thing to achieve. But because I think it's a lot easier for certain people to basically choose one or the other, that's what ends up happening.
Yeah.
And it sucks that the revenue income of being a streamer more actively favors one side over the other.
Well, yeah, I mean, the relationship by its very nature is monetary. You know, there is the expectation of money there.
Yeah.
Or at the very least, the idea of money is there, and it permeates the entire relationship, right?
Right.
And this is interesting because I mean, I'm not going to take credit for everything I'm about to say because a lot of it comes out of having really productive conversations with a friend of mine. Their name is DC, but very, very smart person, very, very like aware of all of this stuff. And Twitch is interesting because it builds communities, except it doesn't, right? Twitch isn't building anything. Twitch is building a company. The streamers, they're the people building communities. And this ties into a larger, I think, cultural current, which is that people who, especially people who live in the United States, don't have access to community. And what I mean by this is as everything gets driven online, right? And this is for better and for worse. I'm not going to come out and be one of those people who's just like, oh, the internet is ruining everything. I think there are upsides and downsides to it, right? It's not a black and white issue, but that's kind of simplistic to say, right? The larger problem is that from a basic level, this country does not have ways of forming community. And I think that's why a lot of the people who end up on Twitch are there on some level seeking that community, even if it's just affirmation for my shitty views, right? It's like, I want to say something terrible and racist. I get to watch somebody say something terrible and racist, and 105 people are just going to watch it, and none of them are going to leave. And that is an implicit agreement with that statement, right? And you will feel solidarity in that space because of that, whether it's genuine or not. And, you know, the United States doesn't have ways of building community, at least not anymore, right? As we've moved into this kind of culture of this market culture, right? Where everyone is out for themselves, and nowadays it's not even that. It's that everyone is trying so hard to survive that they don't have time to do anything else, right? And this is why, and okay, then this is like bringing my personal background into this, where I'm not a Christian, right? My family is Presbyterian, and they raised me to be Christian, but I just never jived with it. But I will never ever speak out against religion or Christianity as a thing, as a whole sort of thing, because it's important to me and it's important to my family. And without the church, right, without Christianity, my family would not have friends, basically. This is so fascinating, where religion tends to be one of the first places and one of the most important ways in which immigrants in the United States build communities. A lot of communities are built around religious institutions.
Right. No, that definitely hits home for me too, in terms of like my family, like my immediate family, at least, like we're not very religious, like at all. Like I wouldn't even know what religion we would say we were if we were to pick one, right? But the only reason that we are in this country was because a church sponsored our immigration to the United States. And so you'll never hear any of us talk badly about, someone who's religious or about their religion, just the same as we would never talk badly about someone who's atheist or agnostic. It has to do with tolerance, but it has also a lot to do with respect. And I feel like a lot of, quote unquote community that's on Twitch right now is it has a lot to do with intolerance and a lot of disrespect. And it's up to a lot of streamers to be able to look these people in the eye and or, you know, look at them, address them and say like, this isn't okay. Like I don't want to build this kind of community on this platform. And it's just like you said, like Twitch itself isn't building communities necessarily. Like they're basically providing, you know, a plot of land, but it's not like they can force people to like build all their homes there. Like they can say, hey, here's a enticing piece of land, look at all these resources that we have, but it's up to the people that go there to build, you know, to build everything on top of it.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
This is my point about community building, which is that the people that build communities, the people that are really successful on Twitch are personalities, right? Like they're not necessarily presenting themselves as people, even though they are, because they have to be approachable so that people will be interested in interacting in the chat. It's like this weird balancing act where people want you to be a celebrity, but they also want you to be a real person. And of course, part of this is entitlement. I think that a lot of it has to do with, you know, this is my personal celebrity and they'll talk to me. They're my friend. And there is this expectation of interaction and sometimes of friendship that arises in these spaces. It's interesting to me that the way that Twitch is set up is in a way to enable people that can build community to do so, right? And some people do it on exclusion. Some people are like, you know, this is my gamer.tv branded chair, and welcome to the gamer sphere. Everyone here is just a normal, cool dude. You know, we hate girls and minorities and special snowflakes, right? It's like those people exist because there's nowhere else for these people to go. And they see that and they're like, yeah, I agree with that. Or even if they don't, they'll be like, I don't agree with this, but I want to be part of this space. So I'll have to kind of tacitly agree with it, right? Like,
it's so interesting because like I'll talk with people of all age groups at like conventions and stuff, right? Which attract, you know, all sorts of like anime fans or gamer fans, whatever have you.
Anime fans are the fucking worst.
Listen,
Sorry.
We're not all bad, okay? I'm an anime fan too.
I'm an anime fan. We're the worst.
We're the worst. We're just a dumpster fire. Anyway, and sometimes I'll have really thoughtful, meaningful conversations with very like these teenagers, right? And other times it's just like I'm talking to this person. It's like I'm not even talking with a human being. Like all I'm hearing is like basically the equivalent of like kappas and Bible thumps or something, you know, like
exactly. Those people exist.
Yeah, they exist, and I feel like I talked about like sheeple earlier, right? But also like a large majority of sheeple is like young people who are very impressionable. Yes, and then they see someone who's like considered popular or cool or whatever in their group, in their friend group, and then they go and watch them, and then they, you know, start assimilating to whatever is going on in that quote unquote community that person is breeding to be recognized among their new community and their new friends. And then they replicate that, right? And it has zero depth, and you can tell just from talking with them. I mean,
I will say this is not a problem that's unique to Twitch. I think this is an aspect of internet culture that has always been present. I think people have always kind of adopted this weird cycle of, I'm going to adopt this thing and now it's not cool anymore. And then you kind of just cycle through that. Right. And it's interesting because I can see this kind of thing in the way that I interacted with people in the past, where even if I was like more of a person at 17 than a lot of other 17-year-old boys, which I feel kind of safe assuming because I've met 17-year-old boys and they're usually pretty terrible, right? Not to say that I wasn't terrible, but I feel like people took me more seriously because I didn't act like an absolute jackass, right? I didn't make a jackass of myself. But even that is like, and adults too, right? They replicate these behaviors, right? The way that you kind of adopt, like, oh, this is like the friend zone, right? It's like, and this is like a thing that, people say all the time, even without realizing it has kind of harmful implications, right? It's like,
Right.
it's just like, oh, bro, I've been friend zoned so hard. And it's just like, okay, all right, sure. You've become friends with somebody. That doesn't sound terrible at all, actually. That sounds pretty good. This is a day and age where it's very hard to become friends with people. So, but yeah, it is in the nature of Twitch to replicate these sorts of behaviors and to have that be the central part. And Twitch, as I said, doesn't do anything to form communities. They're not doing anything really to crack down, except for things that get really bad, and even then it's usually not Twitch, right? Like, here's an example from me, something that I personally witnessed watching the Overwatch League be broadcast on Twitch.
Okay.
There is a racist meme, and I'm gonna say that it's a racist meme, where whenever people on Twitch see a black person on a stream, they spam the try hard emote, because that's like the one black person emote, right? It's like, and it's like the grossest shit ever, because they're basically just saying that person's not white, look at them, it's a black person, which is like the shittiest thing you could ever do to another human being.
Wow. Okay.
Just like in a casual context, right? And this was happening en masse, to the point where the Overwatch League just started banning that emote.
Whoa.
And to the point, it was something that was some amount of controversy surrounding it, because one of the streamers who is an on and off part of the Overwatch League uses it just outside of that context, and sometimes it would coincidentally align, and it just wasn't a good situation, right? But it's like, how do you deal with that as Twitch? Because if you remove that, then what you're doing is you're removing the one black person.
Yeah, you're removing the one black person
decks.
emote. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So you can never stop people from being shitty, right?
Yeah, they're gonna find ways, no matter what.
They're gonna find ways, and I think all credit, I think Twitch has done a decent enough job with giving people tools, especially recently, giving people tools to control their chat in a way that makes that stuff less volatile.
Sure.
But it's hard for me to think of anything that Twitch can do on the highest level to fix that, especially because the highest level is Amazon and Jeff Bezos, and Jeff Bezos doesn't really give a shit about anything. He's really just kind of a dragon that hoards his gold all day. It's like the thing about it is that the core of Twitch is irreconcilable with this idea of acceptance, right? It's like you have to be intolerant of intolerance, but that means you have to be intolerant, right?
Right.
It's very like, and I think the stance Twitch has taken makes a lot of sense, where they give people tools to control it so that communities can self-dictate that. And I think that works, but of course, the best thing to do would just be like, all right, all y'all Nazis, white supremacists, get the hell off our platform, right? Like, just go. That would be the best, but maybe if Twitter ever does it. I'm looking at you, Jack Dorsey. I know where you live.
Oh my god.
You think I'm joking? I'm not.
No,
that's a joke. Twitter and Google, please don't. I'm not going to do anything.
Please persecute Sue.
Please don't persecute me. That was a joke. I'm sure that falls under some protected law about comedy.
Put a cap on it, and then they'll know.
Put a cap on it. Put a cap on that. Or you code it in white supremacy so Twitter doesn't take it down.
No.
Anyway, that's a whole other issue. But in general, I think that it's very, very hard to do anything about that on Twitch, because at its core, it's kind of like this thing that is central to a lot of streams of gaming and other niche subcultures, where naturally you're going to have a lot of really bad ideas floating around. It's like, this is like anime, right? Where the thing that I probably despise the most in anime is the idea of the trap, right?
Oh,
and this is like a whole other gross thing about like, you know, people not respecting trans people and heteronormative expectations and patriarchal expectations of everybody wants this, you know, hot bod, even though the people who are just like, I would never have sex with a trap, which is even gross to say, is like, those people are just like, no, right? Like, no. But like, this is the problem, right? Is that those things can exist in that community for so long that it's impossible to dislodge them without top-down change. And it's not all doom and gloom, right? It's not all doom and gloom. I think that Twitch in general has gotten, like, the culture of Twitch has gotten much more open-minded in recent years, especially, and this isn't happening in a vacuum. It's because people who have large audiences make a conscious decision to be more inclusive. And from a business standpoint, right? Even a business standpoint, that is wise. That's advisable. Have as many people watching you as possible. Don't drive people out of your community because they're different from you, right? Drive them out of your community because they're toxic shitbags that will kill and poison your community like a mold in a sourdough starter.
Everything goes back to your sourdough.
Listen, I'm so upset about my sourdough starter dying.
You're upset.
I'm gonna go home for winter break, and I'm gonna take my starter with me. It's coming with me. It's never leaving my sight again.
It's your child. You can't
It's
just
my
abandon
baby.
it in the fridge.
It's my baby. And then I'm gonna make delicious sourdough bread over the winter, and it's gonna be amazing.
You can make all these sourdough grandbabies.
It's true. That's true. But yeah, it is very much how Twitch works. It's like, it's really easy just to spout memes over and over again, right? Like the frog one, the Pepe meme, right?
Pepe.
Where even if it was kind of like the feels bad man, like and I'm not gonna lie, right? They're mimetic for a reason. Like, they're popular because they're mimetic and people remember them. Like, even me, a person who I would at least assume to have some level of human decency, I hope. Just a smidgen. I hope I've come that far in like 10 years. But even me, I'm not impervious to this, right? I say stupid gamer shit all the time. I say, like, just do something that obviously is impossible, forehead, or like, I never say kappa because I think I hate kappa, but, you know, I will say things like, oh, it feels bad, right? It's like, yes.
I like Kappa Pride. Kappa Pride is fun.
Yeah, but then that goes back to the problem of, like, your gay emote is also the one that's tied to the sarcasm emote. So people just use it as a no homo button. Which is like,
but I don't use it that way though.
Yeah. I mean, there are obvious things that Twitch can do to be more inclusive, and that includes updating the emote decks with not Kappa Pride, right? Like, things that are
I think
that
it's
are better
too
and more
late
inclusive.
for Kappa though. Kappa is too much of like defining Twitch now. Like, they could never get rid of
I mean,
Kappa.
it's impossible to get rid of it, right? It's just kind of something we have to live with, and hopefully one day we'll be able to reframe the use of that emote to be more innocuous and less terrible. Obviously it's like, it's just one of those things, right? It's everything is on fire all the time, always, and we're doing just whatever we can do to keep it from consuming all of us all the time.
Yeah, I mean, definitely Twitch has been a platform that has attracted both good and bad, and it's up to you to decide, like, what part you're gonna focus on, in my opinion.
Well, this is the thing, right? Where as much as I'm talking about, you know, terrible communities and racists and people who have bad ideas about things generally, Twitch also is a platform where minorities have a voice, right? And this is my general feeling about the internet, which is that it allows for a lot of terrible things to happen, but it is also one of the most egalitarian spaces. And I'm not going to say it's completely right, but I think it is a lot easier to encounter people that are different from you on the internet. And I think that the internet is one of the best places and the places where people have the most power with their words. Right. And this is obviously this can go wrong, right? Like you and I both know what Tumblr looked like in 2016. I don't know, right? Is kind of the end statement. It's like Twitch does a lot of things and sometimes they're helpful to people that need help. But I mean, they say that they want to be more inclusive and it behooves them from a business standpoint to be. It's just so hard when you're a financial commodity company, right? And this is the thing about Twitch is that Twitch doesn't build communities, but it does commodify them. You know, it turns viewership and engagement and conversation into money, which people don't like, but I think is fine, right? Like this is like people when they interact with you on Twitch, they are performing emotional labor. And I am perfectly fine with paying people for that. I'm not going into a Twitch stream with the expectation that the Twitch streamer is going to be my best friend ever. I'm just there to be entertained. And if I interact with them,
to do with expectation.
And they interact back, that's fine, right?
Yeah.
And I will like to support them because, you know, everything kind of goes back to this idea of we live in a terrible capitalist society, and for the foreseeable future, it's still going to be there. So we have to support each other when we can, right? This is like we have to uplift diverse creators, and that includes on Twitch. So, you know, I give my subscriptions to my friends and people that need money, and like that's how I interface with Twitch. You know, it's not really a place for me to be part of a community. And to like honestly, I don't even interact really. I don't interface with Twitch in general really anymore. I don't even watch that many Twitch streams, which is kind of terrible because I have friends who are streamers. But yeah, there is a lot of like misaligned expectation, and I think that's more of a general cultural current than anything else.
Yeah. I think it has a lot to do with communication too, like either on Twitch's part or the streamer's part, in order to help tailor people's expectations. Like, hey, this is a big stream, and even though we have slow mode on, and you at me, I've got like 50,000 viewers in this chat. I'm probably not going to see a lot of your comments, but I'm going to do my best. Like, I think that's a pretty straightforward way of tailoring people's expectations as to how big and what to expect from the streamer's interaction. And similarly, like the whole like commodifying like communities and stuff like that. Like I do think that a lot of expectation for Twitch like can come from like, hey, I'm paying you money, so read this thing that I gave you and pay attention to me, please. Like there's also that part of the business side, and I think like I don't know, it's a tricky balance too, because yeah, it's a business, but also like they're trying to do good. I think I want to believe that they're honestly trying to do good by providing this platform, and even as it grows like out of control or like so big that everyone's on it now.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I will almost never go to bat for a company, but I do believe that there are people who work for Twitch that care.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like it's such a weird nebulous space because it's the kind of thing that is completely new. We've never seen anything like this.
Right. And
this is becoming people's primary form of entertainment, where it's not, you go to school on Monday and you're like, oh, did you see the Saturday morning cartoons? Like, did you see Pokemon? Now it's people go to school on Monday and they're like, did you watch Ninja stream Fortnite?
Yeah.
Which is hilarious because I didn't even know who this guy was, but apparently he's just like the biggest deal ever, and it makes just millions of dollars, presumably. I don't doubt it.
I didn't know about him till he showed up on the news. I was like, oh.
Yeah, but
okay.
and this is to the point of building community, right? And how you build a community matters. Well, so Ninja, the streamer, who's a white dude, of course he's a white dude named Ninja.
He has blue hair.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah, he's definitely an anime. I don't know why, but for some reason, every time I imagine Ninja, I just imagine XQC, who's an Overwatch streamer, and every time I imagine XQC, I just imagine PewDiePie. It's like it's just the same self-replicating, like, white-haired shithead.
Oh my god.
Like, I'm gonna come out and say this. I hate PewDiePie. Like, I'm not gonna lie, like the videos that he got popular off of are pretty funny, right? It's like oh, I'm so scared of amnesia, right? It's like, it's having a laugh. But just as a general human being, I just ugh.
I don't know. I haven't met the guy. I have watched his content, and I have seen his old content and his new content.
There is a very widely spread clip where he says the N-word.
Yes, I have seen that as well.
And apparently that wasn't the first time either, because he kept almost saying it and then being like, oop. So
yeah,
it's not amazing.
The unfortunate thing about it is that, like, I have also, like, had friends who have done similar things, but they weren't white, but they were not black either. They were, like, of other minorities, and I could very easily see how they would say it because they were surrounded by people who said it all the time.
Okay, so yeah.
And so,
hold
but
on.
that's not the same as what happened with him. And so it was like, I can understand, but I can also not.
Yeah, right. It's inexcusable for someone like PewDiePie. He knows better. He should know better. Anyway,
Yeah.
Twitch is replacing TV at a rapid rate.
Yes.
And it is important for Twitch to consider that when they make policy, because what they say will affect a lot of people, right?
Yeah, they are raising kids right now. Like, rather than cable television,
absolutely.
which was during our, time period, being our role models, right? Everything that was on cable television. Like, now it's streamers are being kids as role models.
Which is like, it's kind of scary to me, I'm not gonna lie.
It's horrifying.
I almost have more trust in, like, corporate overlords than I do in your average gamer.
Yeah, like, as a parent, like, what do? You can't, like, stop your children.
Boy.
Like if you let your child watch Twitch, because they need to have conversations with their friends. Like, how do you stop them from watching something or seeing some horrible commenter or whatever? Like, oh my god.
Yeah, and this has always been the problem with the internet and how borderless it is. You kind of see everything, and I think this goes back to our talks about how this is affecting culture and, like, how a streamer builds a community. Like, let's talk about what Ninja had to say, where he was like, I don't stream with women because I have a girlfriend and I don't want her to think she's cheating on me. Like, there's so much to unpack there, but like, it's not amazing when the top streamer on Twitch is like, I'm not going to stream with women, a category of people who are already, like, kind of shit on by Twitch in general because of my fragile relationship that could be torn asunder by me looking at another woman because I'm a cheating dirtbag. And I mean, I'm sure Ninja's whatever. I actually don't care if he's a good person. It's when you say those kinds of things, you create a current, And there is a non-insignificant number of people who will grow up to believe that that is the way that you should interact with women as a man, and that's not okay.
I had mixed feelings about it too, in terms of like, I mean, it is his personal decision how he's going to run his stream.
Yes.
But at the same time, it's like, once you get to be as big an influencer as like Ninja or PewDiePie, like you definitely live, like you live differently. You live with all these people's eyeballs on you, and they will look to you as a role model, whether you want it to be there or not. And it's up to you to decide whether you're going to step up to a mantle of, yes, I will be these people's role models. I will behave in ways and project towards my community in ways that I feel are beneficial to the world or whatever, or to my values. And then there's a flip side of that, like in terms of like, you know, I don't care. I'm going to be however I am since I've been since day one, you know. And I think that there's a delicate, like, I don't know, kind of balance there, right? And for him, like his personal values are, I don't want to stream with another woman because like I feel like it would be uncomfortable, right, in regards to my relationship. But it does set that precedent of like, you know, it's okay to ostracize women from your life in order to like maintain your career in a way, right?
Yeah.
Like, so like I would understand it also like in terms of like, if he felt that if he streamed with another woman versus another man, right? Like if he streamed with another male streamer, like no big deal. If he streamed with another female streamer, that female streamer might get like a lot of heat for whatever reason, right? From the community. Like it could be something super inane, like, oh, Twitch or Ninja's cheating on his significant other with this person, blah blah blah. Like that person will get heat regardless. And so if he's trying to spare that person of that, then I get that. But yeah, the whole reasoning of like, I'm doing this for the sake of my relationship security seemed a little bit kind of weird.
Yeah, but, I mean, definitely part of the problem is the way that it was phrased. There's no doubt that whatever he said, he could have said it better and not like that.
Right.
And I totally agree that part of this is a Twitch problem where it's like, you know, don't like, people are gonna be terrible and they're gonna flame whoever you stream with, especially if they're a woman, right?
Right.
Because that's the culture of Twitch, you know, it's just to be degrading to women because they don't respect women and they don't think that women should look for attention, and Twitch is literally a platform built on attention. So I would have gotten it, right? Like I would have understood if he had said it any other way, probably. I think, but also to the point where it would have been better, I think. And obviously, like, I'm not in control of Ninja. He can do whatever he wants. It's his stream. It's not my stream. But when you get that big, you have to understand that you have a non-insignificant cultural impact. And like you have a non-insignificant impact on people's actual lives. And I feel like if you were able to get your community to just not be weird about it, that would be so valuable.
Like just have an open dialogue about it. Like it felt like he was just kind of like sweeping it under the rug kind of thing. Like, this is what I'm doing. This is the reason. That's it. Bye.
Right. And like that many people understanding that, it's like, oh, you can be friends and friendly with other people that you aren't dating. Yeah, you can. And if that was able to, you know, be spread throughout his audience, I think it would do a non-insignificant amount of good just with that idea. And I mean, shoulda, coulda, woulda, right? I mean,
right.
Obviously, that's not the way it happened. It's not the way it's going to happen. And Twitch in general is just going to continue to be like that. But it is important, if you have that many eyes on you, that you watch what you say in more ways than one.
Like you have to weigh, you know, your actions and the words that you say a lot more carefully, right? And weigh the consequences of like, if I say this thing where I'm like, I'm not going to stream with any more girls, or with any girls in general because I don't want it to jeopardize my relationship, then the message that you're going to project is that is like going back to that whole friend zone thing, right? Like you can't be friends with the girl and also like not be romantically interested in her at all.
This is such a heteronormative idea. It's like, do you think people who are like bi or pan can't have friends? Like, don't understand how this like works in your mind.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. I have a friend of mine who like very firmly believes that like when you have a friend of the opposite gender, right, it's because you've already ruled them out as a romantic candidate. Which
is like so odd.
Yeah. And I was like, ooh, we got to talk about this.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's like, listen, like you just kind of want to grab that person by the shoulders and be like, listen, you can want to date your friends. That's okay. You can want to have sex with them. It's not weird. That's just how relationships and people work. Just like be mindful about the relationships that you have and don't screw it up, right? Like don't make things weird because they don't have to be. Even if you both know it's like, okay, we're both friends and we'll probably never date, but we're both like attractive, right? It's like you can want to bang them. That's okay. That desire can exist and you can still be friends with them. I mean, of course, that this is another conversation. It's like relationships are confusing and complicated and messy, and people generally are very bad at them and have poor ideas about how they work because of the way that they were taught, obviously. And like it's the kind of thing that we're not going to get past for a long time. But people normalizing that in a visible way can go a long way in helping.
Totally.
And like you said, the community will self-regulate. You know, people will be like, are you and X dating? You know, your community will be like, hey, that's not cool, right? Like we don't we don't do that here, right? It's like that's like one of the most important things that you can learn to say in moderation, which is that we don't do that here, right? It's not you can't do that, even though you want to kind of say that. And it's not like you think wrong, even though, you know, you kind of want to say that. It's saying that, like, this community is not a place where you can express views like that. Right, exactly. Like, literally last night I was watching this female streamer, you know, playing, I think it was the new Pokemon, you know, Let's Go on Switch. And someone came in and said they basically compliment her a little too intimately for being a stranger. Gross. And then the moderators were like on it in an instant. They were like, we don't talk like that here. You should not talk like that. Like, if you want to do it somewhere else, but like that's not how we roll here. And that was that. Like, it was easy peasy done. Easy peasy. Yeah. And I was gonna say, this goes back to this idea of expectation of parasocial relationships on Twitch, where, you know, the implication is, oh, we're going to be friends, we're going to be friendly, even though no such expectation is reasonably expected. And some people, like those people, just somehow in their brains, I don't understand this, like, even a little bit. They're just like, if I compliment this person on their Twitch stream and I give them money, maybe they'll want to date me. Which is like, so it's just like, I don't understand it personally, but I understand it culturally as like, it goes back to this entitlement thing where it's just like, if I give people things, they will like me. Just, okay. Yeah. There's a lot to unpack there, but I mean, Twitch does foster these kinds of parasocial relationships because that's where the money comes from. Yeah. And there are places on Twitch that encourage it, you know, and absolutely. Like that's like the biggest thing. And this is not unique, right? To Twitch. This has been happening since YouTube, at least, where people expect a level of engagement and personality, I guess, like of intimacy, right? That cannot be reasonably expected from somebody with that big of an audience. So it's very interesting the way that people interact en masse on Twitch. And for better or for worse, this is the turn that we're taking. This is our television, right? It's just people.
Yep. It is our very interactive, up close television. Up close to our entertainers. Television.
Excuse me, podcast host. Could you interact with chat, please?
And suddenly
right.
we're on Twitch.
Suddenly we're on Twitch. No, this podcast will never be hosted because I make far too many mistakes and I need to edit them out. Like, that time today when we were recording where I had to stop 3 different times to make sure my bread wasn't on fire. But you'll never hear that because that was edited out. I can't do that on Twitch. Also,
but
like,
maybe people would love that on Twitch. maybe
I would actually do a bread stream on Twitch. That would be kind of fun.
Be fun.
Not gonna lie.
Yeah.
But anyway, I mean, I think that's we've touched on a lot of things, but this rabbit hole goes very, very deep, more so than we can cover in even the amount of time that we've talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for now we're gonna put a hold on that one. We'll see where that is in a bit. My friend DC is, I think, writing an article about this stuff. So if that comes out, I'll definitely tweet it out because
tweet it.
They have a lot of very important and good ideas about Twitch and community. And
I think there needs to be more discussion about it,
Yeah, I think so. And I think there has to be more discussion about how we interact with each other as human beings and
in general.
just in general, right? Like I think people need to understand how to talk to each other. I've been to TwitchCon every year that it has gone on.
Yes.
And I've met a lot of great people there. Right? Just this past TwitchCon, I met some amazing people who, when and this blows my mind, when I talked about my podcast, they were just like, that sounds really cool. And I was like, does it?
Oh?
Does it? Okay.
Are you sure?
Right? And I'm so grateful that I got to make those like real human connections where I got to talk to people and I got to like laugh and joke. And it felt like I was talking to people and not like I was trying to talk to the human kappa, right?
We all know.
You would okay, and having been to TwitchCon, you would like be surprised at how many people are just that. It is mind-boggling to me how that convention is set up. It's so weird because it's all these people who don't understand how to interact socially except for on the internet, interacting with each other in real life. And it's like, I'm somewhat uncomfortable at this, but I can't make fun of you because I don't want to make fun of people with no social skills because that's shitty. But my God, this is awkward. I'm just gonna leave now.
Yeah, You see them at any kind of like nerdy-esque convention because it's my people are out. It is time for me to emerge.
Right, and be very weird. It's like,
yeah, but then they'll find other people who are like, they vibe with, and it's okay.
Yeah, Godspeed to those people, I suppose.
Yeah, wish them all the best and all that.
And I mean, I will say, I have met a lot of very cool people. Right, it's not. I'm not going to write off the whole thing, but the convention this year was kind of a mess.
Oh.
Yeah, it was kind of a huge mess. I mean, there were a lot of things going on, mind you. There was heightened security, so the lines were 5 ever. And
dude, line con. My friends were so angry.
Okay, this is like that. Oh my gosh. Okay, first of all, the Marriott Hotel was on strike, right? There were people from the Democratic Socialists of America striking the area to negotiate for a better contract and maybe to unionize. And some people, of course, canceled the reservations in solidarity, and some people couldn't afford to, which is completely understandable. And then there's some people like Tyler Ninja Blevins, who makes $1 majillion, who is a scab. Well, he decided to stay at the Marriott anyway, even though he could have pretty easily relocated. which is shitty.
Oh.
It's not great. Actually, funnily enough, somebody set up a scab stream, and nobody knows who did it, but they set up a stream that basically just watched the street and looked at all the people who crossed the picket line to enter the hotel. I feel bad because I have friends who were staying there because Twitch gave them hotel rooms there, and they couldn't basically move them.
I mean, some people aren't there by choice, right? It's like you said, like some people they couldn't afford to cancel the reservation, blah blah blah.
Right, and that's understandable. But Ninja can easily afford to. He makes like $1 million. Like it's no joke how much money that dude makes. So inexcusable. Ninja is a scab. Pass it on to your friends.
Oh my god.
But they heightened security because obviously America is a terrible nightmare hellscape where at any moment you could be gunned down by anybody with an assault rifle and some money. Which is just tragic and sad that we even have to say it like that.
Yeah.
But it's true. So their solution was to heighten security so that everybody in the convention was safe. And what that really meant was that people were waiting outside in large crowds for 5 hours at a time, which...
Yeah.
The
average wait time to get into a convention should not be 5 hours plus.
Right, and part of this is because they want to print the badges on site for some ungodly reason.
Yeah, it was so stupid. Like people like literally my friends pre-ordered their badges. They were just going there to pick it up and they were out there literally all day.
Yeah. Like it was actually kind of nutty how bad that the organization was. And the only silver lining for twitch.tv is the fact that if someone got hurt, it wasn't their fault because it happened outside the convention.
Oh my god. If someone, collapses from dehydration or heat stroke, it's not their fault. They were waiting outside in line for forever, but they're not in Twitch.
Pretty much. They really should mail badges. No other convention has organization this bad for a convention this big. So many people went there, and so many people were disappointed because I would be too. Now, this is a funny story, but I got to cheat the line basically a little bit because I was hanging out with people who are partnered, and their line is for some reason in the middle of the general admittance line. I don't really know how it works. It's probably just because the line got too big, but that meant I got to be in the line basically at the front. So I cheated my way into the convention. Don't tell the Twitch
You
cops.
walked past all the masses.
Well, I got peeled off of my friends because there's only like a +1 admittance to that line. So I got put right there in the line, which was serendipitously way ahead of everywhere else, which was nice. And I managed to get in the convention, but even then, and at some point they stopped checking bags entirely. So, what's even the point?
What was the point of the security then?
What's the point? Everything about this was terribly designed, and I hope to God that next year Twitch is better about this. And it's debatable whether or not I even really want to go next year.
Ooh.
Because, I mean, even this year I don't interface with Twitch that much, so I really just hung out with my friends, and there are better conventions for me to do that at, basically, right?
Yeah,
the first couple Twitch cons were nice because I got to meet the people that I was friends with. I don't know,
online friends with.
Yeah. I met these people because of TwitchCon, because of Adam, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, we've been going for actually quite a long time now, but this goes back to the idea of parasocial relationships, which is that a bigger a streamer gets, the less likely it is that you're gonna become friends with this streamer. But paradoxically, or maybe not paradoxically, maybe logically, because people get in early, they can become friends with that person, right? And this is not exactly the case with Adam and I. It was more so because I just was a decent human being and I was asked to be a moderator. But it is, I mean, those people, and this is I'm echoing DC's thoughts again, but this is how Twitch streamers kind of set up this facade of anybody can be my friend, right? It's like a social lottery because look at these people. They were just viewers and now they're my friends. Well, those viewers were there when you only had 12 viewers. So naturally, you're going to become quite well acquainted with those 12 people.
Right.
So, yeah, it's a very, very interesting new social space that we are not quite sure about yet. We don't really know how it works yet. Or we do, but we're not really sure what that will mean, rather. But yeah, it's a large part of our cultural ground, basically, our cultural touchstone now. And it's probably not going to go away for a while. It might not exist in the form that we see it now, but I sincerely doubt that Twitch is now going to go under. At least for the next...
not for a while, at least.
Not for the next couple of years, at least.
Yeah.
Especially not at the rate that it's growing, right? Like that's the big thing.
It's still continuously growing.
And this is the thing, right? It's like YouTube kind of feels like a dead site now. I don't know if you've noticed this, but YouTube feels like a dead site. I feel like no one really uses YouTube. Kind of. It's like only the people who make videos really use YouTube, and I watch them sometimes.
Yeah, I think
I feel like everyone's kind of moved to Twitch.
Yeah, the people who are unable to move to Twitch are still using YouTube, right? Like their content is just not for Twitch.
Exactly. And there's content that is not for Twitch, right? That is valuable and deserves to exist and be on YouTube and be seen. And to my point, actually, at the very beginning, this kind of has to do with the idea of Let's Plays, which I think is such a fascinating space because I've been watching Let's Plays forever. And the idea of Let's Plays has evolved so much, and the idea of a Let's Play kind of has been broadened almost to not even be a Let's Play anymore. It's just, I'm a Twitch streamer, I play a video game, interact with me. Whereas, it used to be that a Let's Play was a playthrough of a game that the commentator of the game added something of value to, right? But nowadays, that doesn't really exist in that capacity anymore. For the most part, it's just, I'm going to play a game I've never played for the first time, and you're going to be here to experience it secondhand, right? Like, through one level of abstraction. And I mean, I'm not going to say that this is a bad thing, right? Like, this is the only reason I know anything about Persona 5. And I honestly doubt I would have actually sat through the entirety of Persona 5 if I wasn't watching somebody else experience it. Because some of the... okay, I'm being honest, I love that game, but some of the parts of that game really drag.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I feel like there's a part in basically any RPG like that that's there's gonna be like a sewer level or like some kind of like inane place that's just like, this sucks.
I mean, to be fair, in Persona 5 it's the entire last like 20 hours of the game, but it's like, people don't play games anymore. They watch people play games and then they might play games, and it is it's interesting to me that, like, even I don't really play that many games anymore. I used to play all the cool games and all the new indie cool releases and support my favorite developers. But now it's just like, I mean, I play Overwatch and Grand Blue, and I can't be asked to do anything else with my life. But yeah, if I do want to get back into playing games now and again, but it's very true that games, and this is, I think this is part of why I think single player games have fallen off in popularity, especially for development. It's because when you make a single player game, oftentimes you're really just making, like, you're scripting a narrative, and then you're adding action interactive sequences, and then you just connect one cutscene to another. Well, if you are an average person and you don't really care about playing the game yourself, well, then you'll get the exact experience by watching someone else play it. And I think it kind of sucks that, like, as a result, people have been somewhat disincentivized to make single player games. Not to say that there aren't good single player games coming out, because I think there are still. But it's, people really favor multiplayer games now because of that, right? Things like
Yeah.
Overwatch and Rainbow Six Siege and God knows Fortnite, right?
Yeah.
There's a
think
reason that those games
yeah.
are the most popular games streamed on Twitch, and before then,
Yeah.
League of Legends.
I mean, they're hitting their stride now, right? Because the market was almost predominantly dominated by single player experiences. But I think it's basically going to be like a pendulum kind of thing, like, or it's going to cycle around to something else, right? Like first it was single player campaign type things, then it's multiplayer, open world sandboxy stuff, and it's going to swing back around again because now I've noticed, and this includes me, is that people are getting really, really sick of these like either multiplayer experiences that are all copying each other, or not that that's a bad thing, but like they're basically almost all the same thing. But they're also tired of like these open sandbox worlds that have like basically nothing in them, despite like bragging about how much they have in them, right? They're nothing valuable, right?
Skyrim.
And so it's gonna, I feel like, to me, it's gonna swing back around because like there's gonna be more and more of an outcry from people who are just sick of like all these games that play all the same, and they're gonna want their unique single player stories again.
See, what I think is fascinating is we're going to see in the next coming years if gaming can stay sustainable as an industry. Because there's already been a ton of news about, you know, X studio lays off its entire staff, or an X studio is not allowed to unionize, right? Like game workers are workers and they should be unionized to essentially assure job security because it's such a volatile industry, and you're subject to things like crunch and mismanagement and just running out of money. Like God knows that there have been so many games that close because they just don't have money. And it's like, I'm glad that now those issues are coming to light, right? Like people are
for sure.
realizing that crunch is bad.
Yeah.
And that it cannot be reasonably expected for people to crunch if you want to treat your employees like real human beings.
Yeah, for sure. Like the last place that I have personally worked at was a place that like was very proud whenever people were working overtime.
Yeah, which
like
is
that.
shitty.
And it's crappy.
It's like,
and you don't
wow,
realize it while
congratulations.
you're there.
We're so bad at our job that we made you work more and have to pay you for it.
Exactly. And it was like, you don't realize it while you're there because you're like, oh, the boss is like commending me for like, you know, having the tenacity or the work ethic to, you know, stay late despite whatever and try and finish my project. No, that is a signal that your project was mishandled by someone that, you know, either by you or by someone, the person managing your project, right? And
crunch is a failure.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's why I enjoy the place I'm working at more now, because like when we do stay after hours, there's like a level of guilt from the management where they're like, okay, we need to make sure that this doesn't happen again. What can we do to change it? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that does have to do with like, you know, us being a little more vocal about it now, like because we kind of know better. But like still, it's like you should never be proud that your employees are working overtime. Like, yes, you should be proud that they're working hard, but that shouldn't equate to working overtime, right?
Yeah, and like this is coming in the light of like, oh, Red Dead Redemption 2. People are doing 100 week hours, which is, frankly speaking, ridiculous. That is
awful.
not even remotely okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad that people have finally brought this issue to light, right? And that as with all things, gaming as an industry should be sustainable and treat employees like human beings. And of course, I mean, I know that's hard because God knows, but money. Yeah, I know. Just maybe think about people for once, please.
No.
That's all I ask. That's all I ask of the capitalist machine anymore. I'm like, fine, I guess we're not going to topple you in the next 10 years, but can you at least think about us a little bit? And then America just stares down at us, looks at Canada, looks back down at us and goes, no.
Yeah.
Then they look across the pond to Europe and then they look back at us and they're like, no.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's it. I mean, we've long since gone off the topic, off the rails. We've talked about a lot of different things. What are you up to this week, and where can we find you on the internet?
I got more commission work, so I guess I'm working on that stuff. If you want to see my progress on that, you could come over to what we've been talking about this whole time, Twitch. I have a Twitch channel called SwanDrawn. I don't have a scummy sheeple community, thank God. We are all, like, I haven't run into a single, like, terrible person, which is, like, really, really lucky in terms of, like, people who've actually been in my chat and participated. And I think, again, I'm very thankful to everyone who comes by and helps keep that the standard, you know, in our little community. So thank you to everyone who comes by. And I am also on the Twitter and the Tumblr at SwanDrawn, and I'm on Instagram at swan.drawn. And more Yakuza Kiwami too.
Nice.
Yeah. What about you?
You can find me on all the places at Literal Soup, including twitch.tv/Literal Soup, a place where I stream so infrequently that it's become a running joke in my group of friends. It's basically a Christmas tradition. I'll just like pick up a game and I'll be like, let's play a game. But please don't expect it of me this Christmas because I am probably going to be pretty busy. Or maybe I'm not.
You just set people's up for that expectation and then you dropped it real hard.
Listen. It's just, I'm not a streamer. I have all the equipment of one, but I'm not one. Mostly because I'm lazy and I have, well, okay, it's not that I'm lazy even. It's just that I have too many disparate interests. I do a podcast and I watch anime and I play Granblue.
The Granblue Fantasy takes up most of it.
There's a lot of time that's taken up by Granblue Fantasy, which, by the way, I would stream, but is like the most boring game on the planet to watch. So,
yeah, no, please don't.
It is actually terrible to watch. So don't ask that of me, please. I this week am wrapping up school, or at least this quarter of school.
Yo.
So I'm quickly hurtling towards finals week. This coming week is Dead Week, and then I'm gonna do all my stuff over the weekend once my finals are posted as soon as possible, so that I can just not worry about it and not think about school during actual finals week while everyone else is dying. And I'm gonna have some bread. I'm gonna cut into it and see how it is. I used a mixture of bread flour and rye flour this time instead of just the bread flour, so I'm super excited to see how that tastes. I used black pepper and rosemary, which I think will also be quite good. I think that's it. I think that's all I'm up to. It's everywhere you can find me. It's Twitter. I do a lot of tweeting. I do. Okay, I will say, I am not a streamer, but I am a game designer. Not professionally, of course, but I make tabletop games? I don't know. Is it a tabletop game necessarily if it's just like a word fun time? I don't know.
Maybe they're like role play games?
Yeah, I make those. So you can find that on my Twitter page. It links to my itch.io. Itch.io.
Itch.io.
Good. Itch.io. That's whichever one you like. You can find them there. But yeah, I think that's it. Ikechiguro, eat your fucking heart out.
No, bake more bread instead of betraying your friends and becoming a terrible person.
Don't betray your friends. Bake bread.
Bake bread.